Hello, how's it going, folks? Nice to see ya. My name's Dustin Cormier. Welcome to How to Rock Astrology. Today we're going to be talking about what it's like when you have the Sun in Scorpio and Mars in the sign of Aquarius. There's lots to be talked about here. There's the aspect that most Westerners would consider to be here, the square. The fact that they are in cardinal angles from each other is how I would put it in Vedic terminology. How the relationship between Mars, which is the Sun's ruling planet here, and Saturn and Uranus, which are Mars's ruling planets here. So the relationship between Mars and Saturn, I would say more concisely. And just as these planets are in their individual signs. Now, if you want to know more about Mars in Aquarius, feel free to check out the Mars and Aquarius video at the start of this little playlist I got going on here, where I just talk about what it's like to have Mars in Aquarius. There's quite a few things I talk about there. Ultimately, I would call it a positive placement. It's kind of, you would almost call it neutral, because Mars being in a sign ruled by Saturn, Saturn is considered to be, this is my Vedic reckoning. I consider that Saturn anciently rules Aquarius. I use Vedic philosophy, but I use Western measurements. So, I have the same dates. I don't turn your signs back 24 degrees like sidereal Vedic astrologers. But I digress. So I'm here with you guys. I'm Western roots. And my point is that Mars in Aquarius is in the sign of a planet that's neutral to it. The archetype of Saturn is neutral to Mars. It's not a friend and it's not an enemy. It's not a natural friend or a natural enemy. So Mars being in Aquarius there is something good to be said about, consider that Mars is exalted in Capricorn. It's because Mars is an outgoing, impulsive animal behavior that's being reined in the sign of Capricorn. It's being reined in by Saturn. Saturn's the furthest outer planet, furthest away from ourselves. It's a collective group dynamic. The ways of Earth, the ways of physical reality, the ways of hard earthly reality, industry, economy, responsibility. These are all Saturn things. And Mars gets refined, gets sophisticated, gets the pressure of Saturn essentially turns Mars into a sharp, concise, logical, rational diamond, where Mars implants itself into concisely defined methods and ways and channels here. So this is a Mars which probably has many different channels, but they tend to have others with them, going to the gym with some pals and everybody's marking each other's progress so that I can see where I am and I have something pulling me towards this discipline in myself. Tennis game with the boys, Dungeons and Dragons with these few friends where my mind is getting sharper and I have to put effort and diligent intelligence into this thing with these other people. It doesn't need to necessarily be physical, especially with Mars and Aquarius. Although it's, Mars's world is the physical world and you have to express your physical body through Mars and your physical animal impulse energy. And it's generally a good place for Mars, especially if your Saturn is well placed. Keep an eye on where your Saturn is. If it's got trines from friends, especially its friends Mercury and Venus, but also from Jupiter. Those in particular will aid the Saturn, which will give you effectiveness in the things that you consider yourself responsible for, and then the Mars will have lots to express itself through. Because Mars in Aquarius manifests itself. It does the will of the Sun, right? The Sun is the king, and Mars is the right arm, the general. And the king has its own agenda, And the general has its own agenda, its own ways, its own preferences. Ideally, the general should jive to the king. However the general is, it's got to work itself out in order to project the will of the king. Because the king's will is what's ultimately going on here. That being the sun. Your sun in Scorpio is the king. Now, it's doing what it needs to do through this Mars in Aquarius, which is using the group collectives, group projects, the pressure of being responsible to other people, to a group project that we're all building together, doing together, checking ourselves on together as colleagues, as people mutually interested in doing this thing. The Mars in Aquarius pushes for Scorpio's agenda that way, and it's more positive. The final thing I'll say is that Mars here is right next door to its exaltation. Exaltation works by proximity. Mars is not nearly as good when it's close to Cancer. That includes Mars in Gemini, Mars in Cancer, Mars in Leo, Mars in Virgo, Mars in Taurus. Those are the less capable places for Mars, at least by exaltation and debilitation. So this is Mars here is right next door to exaltation. Capricorn is where it's exalted, because that's the disciplining Mars that doesn't take its discipline personally. It sees that everyone else is it applies itself to things, that everyone else is grouped in the same sphere, and they can even find ways of getting on top of people because that's always how it applies its energy. Makes it very sharp and discerning. Here in Aquarius, it's not quite the same. It's not as strong, not as effective, because it's a little bit squirrely. Mars in Capricorn can hold its cards in and feign interest, drop the having to stand up for itself if it's what's best, if it knows that it's in the field for the sake of the field. Whereas Mars in Aquarius is will stand up for itself because it's rigid in a way. It can get caught. It holds very deftly in a cerebral way, gets out of its own mind and just holds these fixations and obsessions that it seeks to build with other people. It holds them and protects them so that it can be built through hard times. It's going to keep on getting built, whatever it is. And this is the Uranus, secretly, in my opinion. This is why people associate Uranus with Aquarius. It's because any planet there puts so much effort and obsessive, compulsive loyalty towards one thing that little things in their life, other things, just completely fall apart and just get shaky because there's so much energy being applied to this one thing. They're magicians in a way. Especially Mars in Aquarius can be quite the magician in that way. But you are going to learn that, Saturn is in the mental conception of the red chakra, the first chakra. It's in the mental idea of reliability, security, final stability. And it wants to be stable towards these certain things that it wants to hold on to. It wants to be loyal to them. And these things can implode because sometimes they're impossible. The material world is in flux all the time. Mars in Aquarius learns this very quickly, and over time they'll learn that they can't fixate only on one thing because their bodies will break down, their friendships, their relationships, whatever will break down. And that's not functional. And Mars in Aquarius knows this because Mars in Aquarius is a logic when it comes to the functionality of how I can use the world and people around me to apply myself and manifest what my sun wants. It's very much the way and world of Mars and Aquarius. So it figures it out eventually. This Uranus thing, they'll still always fixate deeply because this is how they love to apply their power, and they gain things from it. They can do things that nobody else can do with that kind of fixation. Now, the question for this video's sake is, what is the sun? What is the ego, which is going to be using this application, which is going to be using this method, this general? Well, while Mars is relatively strong in Aquarius, close to its exaltation point, neutral by dignity, still an okay place. I'd say generally good, willful, can manifest change and make things happen, and push through its without taking itself too seriously, wasting energy on emotional reactions to their progress and discipline. It's all good things for Mars. Very good. Better than neutral is what I would call it. The Sun in Scorpio. The Sun in Scorpio is an okay place by dignity, but the Sun here is right next door to Libra, which is its debilitation point. Now, at least here, the Sun is making its way towards Aries from Libra. It's making its way towards its exaltation point, which is good. But here, the Sun is close enough to Libra, where it's debilitated, that the Sun does waste its energy on group projects, on its word, on passion for people close to it, on its emotions, on things that it's emotional towards, on other people. They can dedicate and focus so much on a company or a musical group, if they're in a musical group, where they focus on, Scorpio in musical groups often get into the problem of loving the musicians so much as people that they get locked into the emotional familiarity with that person, even if that person's not a good musician. There's lots of cover bands. I'm a musician. This is a good metaphor. I'm a musician. I live in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, where there's lots of people who are around who are just bands that just play together at clubs and bars, and you can tell one or two of them are really gunning to go somewhere in life, and they're just kind of like they're writing original songs, and it's very creative. But there's one person in the band, the drummer or the whoever, who is not as serious, who's just or who's not as good, is just as wanting, but there are things they're an odd person, or they don't have a job, or they're not realistically capable of going to the stardom with these guys that these guys are. Sun in Scorpio loves the person more than their capability and pushes, come on, man, I love you so much and I'm so passionate about you, that they squeeze the other person to make the person fit. Come on, you bugger. We need to do this together, and I love you, so let's push through and do this thing. So, because of that, many people with Scorpio sacrifice themselves to group projects for the sake of the people in them, what they feel to be a good mutual psychology and a workable thing that feels good. And it doesn't end up being... They're not focusing on the directive. They're not focusing enough on how this group can actually apply to me. Like the Sun is better when it's close to Aries, its exaltation point, because then it instinctively thinks whatever I'm going to do, it's going to be me conquesting against my own limits, and I'm seeking to challenge myself to be the strongest that I can be. I'm going to lean on my own discipline to discipline myself. And the fact that the Sun is exalted in Aries, it teaches us a lot about how the Sun's supposed to be. Now, Libra is the evening, ruled by Venus, ruled by other people, relating to the 7th house. 8th house is Scorpio, still others, still opposite 2nd house, my resources, my psychology. So the Sun here, it puts a lot of energy outside of itself, looking at the people outside of itself, and not learning enough about how it can ultimately reliably apply itself to the best something in life, shooting for something in life that fits my highest ambitions in that way. Scorpio is more interested in how it can apply itself to people around it, groups around it, businesses around it, lifestyles, careers around it, that they can fit themselves into, that might enticingly get them somewhere, that they think is powerful. They want to attach themselves. It's Plutonian, in a way, Scorpio. They want to attach themselves to something more powerful than themselves, so that they can somehow parasite that power, bring it into themselves, and then go out into the world and contribute through their own means, through this thing that they've learned to do from these other people. It's almost like a parasite Robin Hood. Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio, so I'm speaking to my own choir here. It's kind of like a Plutonian parasite that parasites and works hard for some other power structure bigger than itself, more influence than itself. Takes the name, takes the reputation, takes the knowledge, takes the capacity, and goes and applies it to its own thing, develops its own thing, and they have gotten that from others, from the opportunities around them, which is not what the sun's supposed to do. It's supposed to come from within you. That's why the sun's exalted in Aries. When the sun is closer to its debilitation point in Libra, which includes Scorpio, it's looking to gain and get its power from the opportunities and things that it seems would be most powerful and quick outside of itself. Now, this leaves the sun with a little bit less energy, a little bit less capacity, and it makes them, this is a sun that can't be relied upon as much because, sorry, I can't go and, some great, like some actor, or some person who's always wanted to be an actor. You're a Scorpio, and you've got these skills in acting and stuff like that, and you would want to project yourself out there, but if someone comes along and asks you, hey, I've got this thing that I want to start, I want to do a movie with you, and if you really want to be an actor, come take a little bit extra time and come with me, and maybe we can make something happen. A Scorpio who is so connected to their company in order to build themselves up to have the resources to do something like that, the opportunity might come up and they might say, you know what, this looks like a great opportunity, but right now I'm making a lot of money at my job. I'm connected to this company, and there's a power opportunity outside of me right now that's building resources that would get me to a place where I can eventually come to people like you, and then I'll be looking for you then. But by then the opportunity's gone. This is why Aries would have just dropped everything and say, yes, hit me with it. This is what I've been looking for right now. Forget whatever stupid thing outside close to me that seems to be a possible good opportunity. I digress. I could wax philosophic about Scorpio. But the point is that Scorpio is not always... They're reliable and loyal to certain things, but it's very idealistic. Now, having Sun in Scorpio means that Mars is the dispositor, and Mars is going to express the Sun. The Sun's going to lean on Mars, which here we know is in the sign of Aquarius. Now, we talked about Mars being kind of better, Mars being pretty okay in Aquarius. The Sun does good in Scorpio by dignity because Mars is a friend to the Sun. So it's actually not a bad place. Mars does push the Sun to get some glory out with the people around it, and the Sun does get some good glory in Scorpio. But it's kind of almost like the Sun is sort of like neutral, leaning towards good here as well in Scorpio. Or just, I would even say neutral, because it's right next door to its debilitation point. Now, I digress. If the Sun has lots of positive things, help from its friends, Jupiter, Mars, and the Moon, then this Sun can come through and really gain opportunities, and no matter what, it can do well. Everyone's Sun can do well no matter what the sign is, because the sign is only one dimension of it. What I want to get to, the head I want to get to here is that this Sun in Scorpio is using Mars, using its ambition, using its logic power, and its dedication, its organization of things, of energy field, and even of people. Scorpio can organize people really well. It's doing all of this that Scorpio likes to do, to be a reliable mover of energy for the sake of the group. It's doing this through Aquarius, because Mars is in Aquarius, and Mars is the dispositor of Scorpio, which means the Sun is going to express itself through the Mars in Aquarius, which is an individualist, is a very unique person. This Mars seeks to manifest that scorpionic will of the sun, of finding some comfortable group where everybody's psychology uplifts the Scorpio. This is what Scorpio looks for. And it has strength and power once it finds that. That's the thing, is that just because this is not the strongest place for the sun, it's still your sun. And you have to express it as it is. And life will conspire to give you the opportunity to take advantage of that strength that you have as somebody who is willing to sacrifice into groups. It's just the nature of your karma. It's your lot in life. The point is that as the scorpionic person who does that, Mars in Aquarius is going to give you even more capacity to stand up for yourself, and there's going to be a real pushiness with you. In fact, that it's the antagonism and the pushing, because Scorpio is empathic. Scorpio wants everything to be easier on everybody, to connect with people psychologically, although Scorpio can be pushy in its own way. This is 2 fixed sign energies for 2 of your masculine ambition planets, Sun and Mars. You only get Sun, Jupiter, and Mars, and even the Moon in Vedic reckoning, for those spirited, internal, spirit coming down to material reality, yang dimension of yourself. And that's 2 of these are in fixed signs, in rigid signs, which means that there's a lot of rigid, hot, pushy energy pouring through you. In the Scorpio's case, it's to wield and hold a group of people, a company, or groups of people, many different little groups that you do, little side hustles, whatever, where you are an important cog in a wheel of people pushing, directing, and even going out and doing little missions for the group, networking and meeting people. And there's a pushy willfulness here that's looking and hungry to build an enterprise, to build a name, to build a reputation. The Mars in Aquarius here can cut through dissent like butter. And it has the ability to apply itself and really kind of compensate for the lack of reliability that we see in the Scorpio Sun. This is a Scorpio Sun who's more willing to be able to put themselves to work. And they might even be able to take on that acting job because they've just got to deal with it with their boss. And they've got to say, they could say to their boss, look, man, I want to do this thing and I'll compensate for the time I spend on this acting gig by doing this. And they'll even tell their boss from the beginning, hey, by the way, I'm an actor and this is a thing that I'm kind of working towards doing. Or they'll just hold that card in, work for this company, kind of devote themselves to it, but do the little acting gig on the side. And if this acting gig ever turns into anything, hey, boss, I've worked for you guys for a long time. There's this opportunity happening, and I'm going to give you 2 or 3 months notice because this is Mars and Aquarius doing its thing well in the sign of Saturn, being punctual and true to the point. I've got this thing I want to do. If it doesn't turn out, I can always come back, and I would love to come back if I could. And they might get that security because this is what this kind of this is what this scorpionic consciousness that wants to be good with people, have this good little group with this company at $1 million, where you're a good manager and good organizer. You've been doing it for years for them, and you say, hey, bud, I got this opportunity to do this other thing. It's just a fun little acting gig, this personal professional career, or even just some enterprise, some other thing. Say to this person, I'll stay in touch with you. I might even start my own company, and maybe we can help each other out. This small business sort of thing, to not burn bridges, to keep resource connections that are useful, in order that you can go out, in the example of the actor, you can go out, apply yourself to this acting world thing, and if you make it, you make it. If you don't, you'll come back to this person, this $1 million, and be able to keep working there. That's the kind of security that you use to throw around this Mars and Aquarius individualistic, unique manifesting streak. So you use the connection of people, of groups that Scorpio brings, the capacity to move people in groups, With, Mars and Aquarius also has a deep capacity to move people. That's how it pushes things. It makes itself useful to some kind of social collective agenda, and can even be a leader in these social collective agendas. There's a blending here of Scorpio wanting to be in groups for the sake of wanting to be in a familiar group at an emotional level, 8th house, with the Aquarian desire to be in groups where everybody speaks the same language and talks to each other and communicates to each other cuttingly and, not cuttingly, but concisely, and can tell each other to do things, to direct things. So almost a sportive dimension, because Mars is sportive in the world of intellectual ideals. So it's a combination of wanting to be familiar with the people that you're grouped in a group with, Scorpio Sun, while also applying yourself, working through a group who is attached to the same values, the same ideals. They're trying to build the same objectives, the same field, the same place. Mars and Aquarius. So your group will be familiar and comfortable, but also professional and even idealistic and fun. Maybe not necessarily fun, but definitely wild, individual, unique, particular towards the group directive. Now, how this translates in terms of your personality in a relationship can be very similar. You'll probably want to find a partner who is in both of those, feels cozy to you at the Scorpio level, and that you can even get so comfortable and deep and familiar with that you can have these sort of sentimental bonds. But you need to be able to also apply a detached, even kind of wild, gripping sexuality that's kind of detached, aloof, and sort of just like porn star, superficial porn star-ish in the way that Mars Aquarius kind of is for everything, even for the women too. You will want to connect at a trust level in the Scorpionic sense, where we can trust each other emotionally. We both get what we're both trying to lay down. We wouldn't undercut the other partner or throw the other partner on the bus in conversation, because Scorpio doesn't like those kinds of things. They like to feel like they're at some constant feeling level, that their partner does not antagonize them in any way, except for maybe when the two of them are mutually working out goals, which is always can be a tough thing to do with you, because there's so much fixed energy on both ends here. But the kind of partner you'll look for is someone who can stand up to you, give you concise reasons for this and this and this, and to be useful to you. To be real, to have that grinding realness to be able to go with you. But ultimately, you're probably someone who's very willful to have the other person listen and apply themselves to your command and your directive. And to appreciate you for the work that you do and all the other things that you do. To appreciate you being fixed with them, but also being fixed to these many other things and still giving time to you. Of course, it would take Venus. If you have a strong Venus and a strong moon, then you will consider it subjectively meaningful and important to spend time with your lover, and you'll do it in a way that is probably very rock and roll. Because Scorpio is passionate and big impression, and Mars and Aquarius is kind of like kinky and sexy and can stand behind the gooey emotional sentimentality of Scorpio and kind of be like, have fun, go out and see a show, and then go out to like a restaurant, hopefully have some kind of like high-end sort of experience and have a little bit of refinement and sophistication with that Mars and Aquarius that comes through in that sort of way. And when you finally get them at home, you guys can talk and talk and talk, as Aquarius might, and you would enjoy the Scorpionic trust built through all of that, plus also the Mars and Aquarius like hanging out, not trying too hard to secure each other for emotion's sake. And if you can find a partner who can enjoy all of that, your partner will enjoy you, who can ultimately, there will be times where you are mentally in love with the other person, where you're both walking and talking and they say something and admit something about themselves that's just so reflective and deep and honest about themselves, walking along with the moonlight, and you'll look at them and you'll see them in a beautiful light of seeing what they are doing, who they are. And if you appreciate and value what they value, you'll deeply get a moonlit sentimental romance moment there. You'll probably have these kinds of things because Aquarius so appreciates somebody who's familiar in the mental ways that they operate, that you operate. The friend, it's like a best friend vibe that you seek to have with the other person. And Scorpio wants to fall passionately in love, and it'll fall in love with that kind of thing. But it won't necessarily, so you'll have those sentimental moments scattered about, and sex might have them a little bit in little ways. But ultimately, how you apply yourself to sex will probably be more of this passionate rock and roll, let me rock your world so we know that I'm rocking your world. Like a real show-offy, individual, unique streak that can be very methodical through the Mars and Aquarius, can be very even tantric. There's a definite capacity for tantric application of erotic energy with this combination. So all these videos I've been doing lately have been longer than I intend them. It's just what it is right now. So I've just given my own spiel about Sun in Scorpio, Mars in Aquarius. I hope it wasn't too long-winded. I'm going to end this video with a little bit of Erotic Astrology, The Sex Secrets of Your Horoscope Revealed by Phyllis Vega. This always kind of rounds out my astrological lessons with a little bit of a more personal, erotic, sexual touch. This is Sun in Scorpio with Mars in Aquarius. Although you crave sexual fulfillment, you're really seeking a mental connection with your partner, with your lover. Until then, you'd rather be the master of your own destiny. I see what it means there, but I guess it means like someone leaning on you, or you know, if you were to think of this person as someone who leans on somebody for their emotional needs. I need somebody to validate my closeness and my feelings worthy in myself. You would rather not have someone's mutual need for that suck you into your own need for that. You know, especially if you don't have a good mental connection with them. You know, it's like, I've got somebody who loves me, you know, like my girlfriend, or, you know, even just having some trophy hot girl. Some people will have, like, some people love just having a little hot trophy girl to just make them feel validated, or a hot man who's got lots of money or something like that. You probably won't be able to just, I mean, security is good for the Scorpio or whatever, but the Mars in Aquarius just knows that they need to express their Scorpio best, which is important for the Scorpio Sun. Scorpio Sun, whether you're a man or you're a woman, whatever you are, you need to feel, you identify with your expression and through things and your ambition in a lot of ways, your application of your own energy. And you need to be able to do that with your partner. You need to be able to enjoy doing that. Or else the person will just feel like an emotional ball and chain. And, you know, you'd rather be the master of your own destiny than deal with that. That's my point here. Now, while you may not be overly romantic, you are extraordinarily idealistic. For you, love is meant to be a transcendent experience on all levels. And it very much can be. And you are just in that mental place, the inner divine experience. And I would say that, you know, consider that it's up to your Venus and your moon, really, to define whether you are romantic. Whether you're romantic or not, it's this passionate, transcendent, idealistic consciousness that you'll apply to relationships and to lovemaking and to everything. Now, your mood swings in the bedroom can be rather extreme. Your vacillation between Scorpio's passion And Aquarius is complete emotional detachment in the funny bone, just moment breakups. These can drive your partner straight up the wall. If this person falls in love with the Scorpio and has lots of water, then your partner might expect you to just stay with that passion and to keep things juicy and this devotional empathy that Scorpio often applies. I know that myself. But then the Aquarius and Mars and Aquarius will occasionally come out and go, do you know what face you just made when you cummed? It was like this. Look, watch. Did you see that? And like the Mars and Aquarius will do this kind of funny bone thing, and the partner will be like, way to ruin the moment. That was me coming. That was me being at my most natural. And then the Scorpio will feel bad. Oh, sorry. I was just trying to be funny. It'll come out with that kind of aloofness, which the two can contradict each other. Then again, if the person falls in love with the Mars and Aquarius more so, and they're a very airy person, then they might just like love a good little romp, and you might want to have moments where you just kind of just, want to even just, shed a little bit of a tear and just be like, I don't know how to say this, but like, like I just, I love moments like this or something, You might have those Scorpio dark contained moments where the other person's like, gets blown, is frustrated because you're used to being this tough man thing. And you might even have emotional moments that can be hard. And if your partner doesn't have enough water, then you'll completely hide the Scorpio Sun in order to put across the Aquarian emotional detachment. And if your partner is not empathic, then you'll start hiding the watery, sentimental, dissolving, letting go, passionate, fun, laughing energy of the Scorpio. Scorpio likes to have that swanky laughter energy. Either way, the upshot is that your mate rarely knows where you are coming from or what you're thinking, because you are such that multi-tiered kind of person. And it can make for the best of two quite different worlds in a lot of ways. Like I said, this can make for a strong Tantra energy. The passion of the Scorpio, the rigid heart center passion of Scorpio, coming into the square, the cardinal aspect of the hot, intense Mars in a detached emotional perspective, an objective, scientific rather than passionate application of animal energy, scientific, logical, sternly, disciplinedly applied. Can make for if you understand where I'm coming from with the yang and the yin there, can make for a powerful tantric energy. It's something you might want to look into. So, that was Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I've been, these videos are going really long lately. Let me know in the comments if you guys think they're too long. Otherwise, if you liked it, leave me a comment, drop a like, and feel free to subscribe because, as I always like to say, especially right now, COVID things are happening. It's December as I speak, and these videos are, I've got lots of time. I'm inside, I've got my own sweet little ring of friends and family. I got a part-time job selling cannabis at a dispensary, which is a solid job here in Canada right now. So I'm just going to start spinning the wheel and taking creative time to myself to do more of these videos. And I hope you guys enjoy watching them with me. Thanks for watching, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys on the flibbity jibbity woo 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 woo. See you later.